All right, I know we had some people asking about feeder roaches and how we breed the roaches that we feed to our animals here at Benjamin's Exotics. So I figured that I would go through and I would do a quick little video for you guys today on how we breed our roaches, what we feed them, how we care for them, and all the different aspects of breeding feeder roaches. So just to kind of start off and give you guys an idea of what we're working with, we have, I didn't really grab all the tubs. Obviously, this is just a couple of the roach bins that I have, but I grabbed a couple different species. I think those are dubias. Those should be cave roaches. Yeah, I can see a big dusky cave roach right there. These are red runners, and that is another red runner colony right there. As far as lids go, you can keep lids on your roaches or you don't have to. It really depends on the species. If it's a tropical species like a dubia roach or a cave roach that really suck at climbing and they can't really jump or fly, I normally don't keep lids on those guys. Like these two tubs right here just sit on the racks without lids. But for other species like the red runners, we either keep them in a tank like this with a sliding and locking screen, or if we keep them in the tubs, we take the lids and we melt about 1 million different holes going all along the side to give these guys good ventilation. Because if you don't give them good ventilation and you let things get stagnant, things get pretty nasty pretty quick. These guys are kept in just metal or plastic racks. For the tanks, we will use a heat lamp, and for these guys, we use the 12-inch the FlexWatt heat tape, basically. The THG, made in Korea. It's a 12-inch FlexWatt, and it goes about 2/3 of the way on the bottom of these big 105-quart Sterilite tubs. So to start out, we're actually feeding these guys right now. So I really have two diets that I rely on as far as dry food goes when it comes to breeding feeder roaches. So basically what I do, some people make their own roach diet. Some people use dog food. I'm not a fan of either one of those because roach diet normally costs way too much and dog food has a tendency to rot and get nasty pretty quick. I have two foods that I use. These are both by Missouri. This is a Missouri rodent diet that we crush up and we make it basically like this fine sort of grain. So this is Missouri rat or mouse diet, either one will do. And then we take this Missouri tortoise diet and we also give this to the roaches as well. Now you can feed this dry and then we'll eat that and they'll normally do fine. What I like to do is take your pellets, again this is Missouri tortoise diet, and add just a little bit of water to it, just like that. And it'll take about 5 minutes, but these will actually expand and they'll become pretty soft, and the roaches just eat them up like candy. You can put these in hard, like I said, as the full pellets, but they really don't tend to eat them too much. Like you can see, they'll nibble on them a little bit, but if I get them wet first and I get some moisture in there, they really tend to go crazy, and that basically, they literally eat it up like candy. It's crazy. They love the Missouri tortoise diet, and we probably give them the Missouri tortoise diet at least 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, literally, they eat it that much. So we're gonna go ahead and let this stuff soak. We'll come back in a couple minutes, but let's go ahead and actually fill up the food trays. So I think for the most part, these bins should be good. Like you can see, I'm just making sure they still have some of the dry food in the little deli cup lid. But for these two tanks, it looks like things are getting a little bit low. So what I'll do is just take a couple scoops of this, like you can hopefully see. Try not to make too big of a mess here. Refill it, kind of just like that, and it looks like the dubias are gonna need a lot. Dubias really can eat a lot of dry food when the colony gets going, but it does take a bit of time to establish your colonies, and if you miss a little bit here or there and it goes into the substrate, they'll eat it up just fine. You'll actually probably see, once they smell it, they'll start coming over up to it and eating it like crazy. So just kind of get it out like that. So that's for the dry food. Again, I'll let this expand a little bit more before we touch on that. So let's go to the produce. So there's all kinds of different produce, meaning fruits and vegetables that you can feed your roaches. In this case, I'm just going to use some romaine lettuce. We have some sliced bananas. I always slice the bananas because if you don't and you leave it, you know, just a whole banana in there, they normally don't eat the whole thing by the time it starts to dry out and rot. So you save and they get to utilize a lot more of the fruit if you slice it. Same thing for oranges, same thing for apple, same thing for any kind of fruit that has a dense core or isn't already very thin in its build. So we'll go through here, and again, these guys will eat this up just like candy. They love the romaine lettuce. So for the red runners, I normally like to break it, and we'll kind of just set some in there. You would be shocked how much these guys can eat in a pretty short amount of time. And then the bananas have that kind of fruity smell that'll normally get them interested in the romaine lettuce. Same kind of thing. These guys are dubias. This isn't a major colony over here, so I don't need to give them that big of a chunk. If I can rip this, kind of hard to do with one hand on the camera. Just like that, those guys should start coming out and eating. Those are cave roaches, so I know this is a decent sized colony. You can't tell, but there should be some babies. Yeah, look at that. Bunch of little baby dusky cave roaches. So we'll go ahead and set up the lettuce on that. We'll give those guys a slice of banana as well. What are these? These are red runners. So those guys eat a lot. Go ahead now, actually probably just break this in two and give it to these guys. Again, you can just basically throw it in there. I don't really have any special way that I do it. Sometimes I'll set it on the little feeding station. Sometimes I'll just throw it in like that. It just depends on what I'm trying to do. And like you can see, the dubias are losing their mind over the dry food. That was definitely empty for probably the last day, and they are just starved beyond belief. So let's go ahead and take some more of this. I'll put it on this side because the lamp is on this side on the rack. Put that guy right there. We'll go ahead and put some banana in for those guys so they can start going to town on that. And it looks like we have one piece of lettuce left. I'll probably throw that in with the red runners on this side, or the dubias. Let's see. Red runners, yeah, the dubias will eat this up. You would be, just shocked at how much of the greens they can eat in a pretty small amount of time. Let's see. We didn't give these guys any banana, I don't think. Nope, so we'll give that to those. We missed the banana on these last two as well. I like to get some fruit in there. I think the sugars and all of the nutrients associated with, bananas and oranges are important, but I also like the, romaine lettuce. It isn't necessarily great nutritionally, but roaches are really like cows in the sense that they can take something like romaine lettuce, which to us humans is basically nothing, and they can literally just turn it into pure insect protein to feed to our animals, which is great. So as you can see, the cave roaches are starting to come out and feast on the romaine lettuce and banana. You can see all the baby dusky cave roaches coming out. Going to enjoy this meal a lot. You can see a really tiny baby right there. I like cave roaches a lot. They're not nearly, they're not real reproductive as far as like feeders go, but if you get a colony established and you really get a good sized colony, you can use these as feeders on a pretty consistent basis. And the red runners right here are really going to town. If it was dark in here and I didn't have all of the studio lights behind me lighting up these bins so you guys can see, the egg crate, you would probably not be able to see any of the white on the egg crate. There's literally that many roaches in here. I can go ahead and show you. Lots of red runners in this setup, and again, lots of them are hiding underneath some of the egg crate stacked in there. Lots of cave roaches. It's so cool watching these guys go to town. And it's just about time to put in some of the moist Missouri tortoise diet. So all I really do for this, like you can see, most of the water we put in there is literally gone. We just have these kind of, not soggy, but moist balls of just pure nutritional goodness. This is all like vegetable-based protein, which is really great for things like dubias, which are just again, losing their minds over all that banana and such. And what I normally do is just literally take it almost like a tongs, whatever. Sometimes I do it by hand. These are kind of oily in a way. I think whatever they're using as their protein source has a bit of moisture already in the food, so I don't like to touch it too much because then it gets all over the camera. But just like that, as you can see, I drop it in there, and literally they're already starting to go away at it. They eat this stuff up like candy. I really recommend getting some of this Missouri Tortoise diet. You can get it in the small, I think like 2-pound bags, or I normally get the big 25-pound bag just because bang for the buck, it's the best you can get. And again, just gonna kind of go through here and give it to the roaches. This will probably all be gone, including all the lettuce and stuff. When I turn the lights off, probably all be gone within the next 2 to 3 hours, I would think. And these are basically just like, I mean, literally fantastic as far as nutrition for your roaches. I was first trying out using the Missouri Tortoise diet, and I was just feeding it dry. And they will eat it, kind of. The adults can break it down, but the babies can't. And when I started putting it in some water to make it a bit moist, because I saw that some of the tortoise keepers are doing that as well, it changed the ball game completely. These guys, for some reason, these pellets are actually quite hard when they're dry right out of the bag, but you put some water in there, they get a little bit soggy, and it's literally just like nutrient dense candy for your roaches. If I don't scare them too bad, they'll run off, but they'll come back in a few minutes. Like you can see, there isn't a huge population of cave roaches in this tub, probably about 100 when you count all the babies and the adults, and those guys have plenty of food, so we don't need to restock them on this run. Maybe by next week they'll deplete that a little bit more, and we'll go ahead and give a little bit more of the Missouri Tortoise diet to some of the red runners. For some reason, this is all dubia. I think this is a pretty small colony, so they're kind of freaking out. They're not coming out because of the lights, but they'll be out in a little bit. And like I said, this will probably all be gone. If not within the next 3 hours, definitely by tomorrow. This will all literally be vanished. You won't even be able to see what we've done here. And then for the last little bit, I'll give it to this colony of red runners, and I'll freak them out. They'll run away just like that. And that's going to be just about it for today's video. Hopefully this gives you guys a decent idea of what we feed and how we feed and care for the roaches that we breed for our animals here at Benjamin's Exotics. If you guys do want to get into roach breeding, make sure you have larger enclosures like we have here. I've had some people email me recently, and they have, you know, dubia roaches set up in like a 6-quart or a 12-quart tub, and they're wondering why they're not breeding and why they're not, you know, thriving. You have to give these guys some space. It doesn't have to be a 55-gallon tank, but, you know, these are 105-quart sterilites, and this is the smallest I would go. These are both 20-gallon long breeder tanks with a sliding screen lid. If you guys did enjoy today's video, be sure to give this video a like. Be sure to leave a comment down below, and of course, subscribe. Thanks for watching today's video, and I will see you guys in the next video.